Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
It's Boxing Day. Happy Boxing Day, Wendy.
Oh, thanks. Happy Boxing Day to you too, Mike.
That's right. December 26th, the day after Christmas.
The day after we unbox.
Happy Boxing Day to everybody in the UK Commonwealth out there. Hope you're having a good time, and I hope everybody had an excellent Christmas. Wendy, how was your Christmas? Did Santa bring you everything you wanted?
Oh, it was lovely. Yes. Just a good time with the family. That's kind of best thing.
What was your favorite present? Did you get a good present you really liked?
Yeah, I got a neat little, I forgot what it's called. It's like a foot pod thing that you use for running, and it helps to monitor your steps, like when you're not using the GPS. So I've been doing a lot of treadmill running lately.
Okay.
And supposedly it will help me with that.
Okay, so that's fun.
And then my brother gave me a 3D printed whistle that he made, and it's a super loud whistle. So if we ever need to get everybody's attention...
Or if you're ever planning on, like working as a referee at a football game or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You now have the qualifications of kind of knowing some of the rules of football and having a loud whistle.
But yeah, just all kinds of very nice gifts. Got a nice scarf and thoughtful things.
Okay.
How about you? What did Santa bring you?
Well, Santa didn't bring me that much because Santa brought everything for my daughter.
That's right.
Yeah, once you have a kid, the kid gets all the presents. But she had a lot of fun toys. And
you get to enjoy watching your daughter play with the toys, right?
Yeah, so we've already been playing with some of the toys in the storybooks and everything. And that's nice. It already got her in like the Christmas onesie, and that's nice. So that's good.
What was her favorite gift?
Her favorite gift is there's this like little octopus with a sailor's hat on. And it's like holding a mirror and a rattle. And so we were having some octopus time before. I said this is to prepare her because I'm like, oh, somebody gave her a stuffed Cthulhu for Christmas. And I'm like, perfect. Like, so she'll understand the elder gods right away.
There you go.
But no, it was real cute, and that was fun. Allison from Milwaukee Ghost, she got me a trip to the escape room. There's an escape room in Milwaukee.
Oh, cool.
And so she's like, we're gonna go to the escape room sometime this year, and that's. I thought that was my favorite. It might be a fun present.
Yeah, so she's going to go with you. You're not going to just go and get locked in there by yourself, are you?
We're going to try to escape together. Well, the thing is, we'll see if we try to escape together, actually, or if it has to be like only one person, like two people enter, one person leaves. And, I was like, so this is like a Saw type situation, like where only one of us can get out alive.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, and the thing is, right, if she dies, I get her ghost tour. I think that was the deal. So that's what's going to happen.
Oh, my goodness.
No, that was didn't your sister do an escape room, Wendy?
I think she might have. Someone we noted.
I thought it might have been your sister, and because you saw her for the holiday, I assume she succeeded.
Well, if she did it, yeah, I don't remember talking to her about it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I saw she did an escape room sometimes. I'm like, hey, wait, she escaped. That's fantastic. So she's still alive.
Yes, that's great.
So, all right, everybody, hope you had an awesome Christmas out there. And the next time we talk to you will be in 2017. So make sure that you have a great new year, too.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. And so for our final guest of 2016, we've got a very cool book by a New York playwright and screenwriter and now a UFO journalist by the name of Ryan Sprague. And so Ryan hosts a podcast called Into the Fray, and it's a pretty interesting podcast, and he's a... interesting guy that had his own UFO experience, and that's what kind of inspired him to get on the UFO tip. So his book, Somewhere Over the Skies, A Human Approach to UFOs, was just released in November, and we bring him on to talk about it. Let's go.
This is a special treat today. First of all, it's always enjoyable to do a podcast with family when it comes close to the holidays. So Allison from Milwaukee Ghosts, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I'm glad to be here today.
This was your idea to bring on this wonderful writer, and I've been listening to him in a couple different podcasts, and his interviews are always outstanding. And so we're welcoming today Ryan Sprague. Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. I love your show, and it's such an honor and pleasure to be to be on here today this early. So thank you.
Right. Early on Friday before Christmas is the day we're recording this. And so if you guys are unfamiliar, Ryan Sprague is a New York playwright who also has a keen interest in UFOs. He recently wrote Somewhere in the Skies, A Human Approach to an Alien Phenomena. And it's a super interesting book. Recommend you guys pick it up. And also for the next couple of months, all the proceeds go to charity. Isn't that right, Ryan?
Yes, yeah. Thanks for mentioning that, man. For the months of December and all of January, half of the profits, my personal profits, go to the Women's Refugee Commission. It's a cause I believe heavily in. We've got, over 60 million refugees around the world right now. And the women, they feel it most. So anything we can do here in New York City to make these people feel welcome and to just have a home and feel safe like the rest of us.
Sure.
That's all we can do.
So you can do something nice over the holiday season if you pick up Ryan's book Somewhere in the Skies. But let's talk about how he got to that book in the first place. So Ryan, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, in the upstate area. So I definitely feel the pain of your winters there, guys. It gets pretty cold up there, too.
You get it. And Ryan, when did you start getting an interest in UFOs? Like, when did it kind of hit you? Were you a little kid? Was it an experience? Was it in high school? When did you say, like, oh, because when you're writing a book on UFOs, that is a full commitment to being a weirdo. We love it. And so when did that interest hit you?
Yeah, it definitely hit me. In 1995, I was 12 years old. So yeah, I was definitely a kid. I had a UFO sighting. I was on a weekend getaway with my parents to the St. Lawrence River, which runs all through upstate New York, kind of borders Canada as well.
Okay.
And I was fishing off the dock one night, listening to Green Day on my headphones. And
all right, pretty sweet.
Yeah, the Dookie album, of all things, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fishing, it's dark out, and I noticed these three white lights reflecting off the water. So, naturally I look up, and I think I'm going to see a plane, and it was not a plane, man. It was the three white lights, and sort of this, like, red-orange sphere or ball, like a hazy... I never know how to describe that part of it. Kind of like a sun. If you took the sun and threw it in the middle of this thing. I could not see any sort of like metallic structure to it, but I couldn't see the stars behind this thing. And so I ripped my headphones off. I'm waiting to hear this, whatever this jet is or this plane is. And
were you giving yourself, it was Basket Case playing? I imagine when you said you were listening to Dookie, and I could just think, like, sometimes I give myself the creeps, and you're looking up, and then you see this magical sun in the sky.
It could not have been any more appropriate. I'm pretty sure Basket Case was on at the time, or maybe Longview. I don't know. But it was a very appropriate moment, very cinematic. But yeah, I take the headphones off. I couldn't hear anything, dude. Like, there was nothing. And it just, even at 12, I knew, like, this isn't normal. Like, this isn't like how a plane acts in all conventional terms. So I start yelling for my dad. He's inside our motel watching a Yankees game, of all things.
Sure.
And there's no pulling him away from that. So I run in really quick. I grab him to come out. And he comes out, and he does see the tail end of this thing as it's sort of drifting off in the distance. He thought it was a plane. I knew different. I saw this thing directly over me. And to this day, I'm still convinced that whatever it was, it looked like it actually went into the water. It was going off into the distance. Now, obviously, I can't prove that. I can't prove any of it.
Course.
But, yeah, it was freaky, man. And I became obsessed after that.
What did your dad say? I mean, was your dad like, that was something weird, or was he like, don't talk about this again? Like, do not mention this to your mother. What did he say? About that?
Right. There's been many times in my life where he's had to say, don't tell your mother.
Right.
But with this, he was kind of like, just, that's interesting. It's probably a plane. So, he did entertain it. And the next day he went to the owner of the motel we were staying at. He's like, did anyone see anything weird last night? He's like, what do you mean weird? He's like something in the sky. He's like, oh, it's like people see, people do claim to see UFOs over the water a lot. So that scares the crap out of me.
So there had been other reports. Incredible.
Other reports in the area. Yeah.
Enough so it got back to the hotel owner. That's really something.
Right. Which is more than most people can say. A lot of people who have UFO sightings, they never report it to anyone. I didn't know about MUFON at the time,
right,
or any of that kind of stuff. So, unreported other than to me and this motel owner. But yeah, I became obsessed after that. That fear I had turned to obsession, and it was kind of a snowball effect from there. I started taking out book after book on UFOs, and the rest is kind of history.
And it was, 95 was the glory days of the X-Files too. That was, I remember, that's where you could just, X-Files t-shirts and hats, and I had my share, of course.
I wasn't allowed to watch that show at that age, unfortunately.
All right. Okay. Too scary, but that's cute. That's fun.
A little bit.
Yeah, it has a TV 14 rating, doesn't it?
I think so.
Well, this was before the days of the V-chip, so then you couldn't even do that. But okay, so when you started getting obsessed, and what were some of the first books or magazines or things that you consumed when you were getting into UFOs for the first time?
Yeah, so this was during the advent of AOL. So I mean, you've got all these fringe websites popping up, chat rooms, if any of your listeners remember those. Of
course.
I'd sneak into the basement where a computer was at midnight once my parents were asleep, and I'd hop on there, and I'd get in these chat rooms and start, asking people about sightings, UFO sightings, and conspiracy theories. And so I'd say that's kind of where it started, and that was a rabbit hole for sure. Book-wise, I distinctly remember the first book I ever saw on UFOs was Crash at Corona, which was about the Roswell UFO incident.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That was written by Stanton Friedman, the godfather of ufology.
I always think about his beard. Is the first thing when I think about Stanton Friedman. I think I'm like that beard is always so his defining feature to me is that
it makes him so distinguished.
It does, that beard.
Him and J. Allen Hynek. There's something about the beards in ufology. I got to start growing one. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've got one, but it's usually just messy, and I'm never going to be big in this field until I figure out some kind of distinctive beard that can happen.
Who would have thought?
That's right, a little
the
salt
only
and pepper,
criteria.
Mike. That never hurts either.
Every day I get older, so I'm working on it.
So there's so many books on UFOs. I mean, what led you to write your own?
So this was, I will be honest, it was always a dream to write a book about the topic. I really got serious about writing about UFOs in college. I started finding all these old Omni magazines and Fate magazine. And I was like, this is pretty cool. These short little digestible articles about UFOs. I don't have to spend, years reading through facts and the books and blah, 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 blah. And I started writing for some alternative magazines. Open Minds magazine was the first one I got involved with. Yeah, and they were a great linchpin for me. They really sort of catered my writing career about UFOs. And that's where I probably got involved most with the writing. And I would write these short objective articles, 2-3 pages, and I couldn't really tell my opinion. I had to just state the facts. And I wanted to find a way to do it with my own voice and bring my own thoughts and theories about what these UFOs and possible alien contact could be. And that's when I decided to approach my publisher, my now publisher, with the idea to write a book.
You also write plays, and that's really your main artistic form of expression. Do any of your plays are they about UFOs, or do you sneak little UFO references in to maybe some of the characters?
Absolutely. The major play I'm working on developing right now is about the 1980 Rendlesham Forest UFO encounter back in 1980. Yeah. Tons of military personnel witnessed UFOs landing in Britain during the Cold War while they're housing nuclear weapons on their military base. It's crazy. If anyone doesn't know about it, go check it out.
Yeah, and so you've probably interviewed or talked to Peter Robbins then, because he's a New York guy too.
Yes, he is. Peter is my soul brother, guys. He is my mentor, my Obi-Wan, as it were.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, he really has taken me under his wing. His book, Left at East Gate, was a British bestseller about the Rendlesham case. And it was one of the first books that this thing's over like 500 pages long.
Yeah,
and
it's huge.
It's huge, man. It's like a Bible. And I read it front to back like 3 times in a row. And I said, I have to contact this guy. So I did, and we've become friends ever since. He also comes from the world of theater here in New York City. So we have so many connections that have led us down these paths, both with theater and UFOs. And
he's a fascinating guy.
Definitely made it bleed into my plays. He is. He really is.
Like one of the nights at the Paradigm Symposium, I just sat there and listened to him tell stories about CBGBs and stuff, and like the New York punk scene in the 1970s. And I just was like sitting there, like, I'm like, tell me more about Debbie Harry. Like, let's keep going on this. And it just was super fun.
You were just entranced, Mike.
Entranced. I know the feeling, man. His sister was like a huge revolutionary person in the punk scene back in the early days. And it's fascinating hearing him tell stories about the glory days and
right. It just makes me jealous. I'm like. So that's awesome that you're working on a play about the Rendlesham incident, which really I think in the U.S. we don't know enough about, and it goes. I mean, I'd say that because it's from 1980, there's so many more people who are alive that still have memories of it and experiences. It's not like when you go back and talk about Roswell. When you talk about Roswell now, everybody's dead.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. This is a ongoing case. A lot of the witnesses are still here to tell their stories. And a new guy came forward last week, like no joke, saying about what he had seen that night and corroborating other people's stories from those 3 consecutive nights in 1980. So it is the British Roswell, as we call it. And
right.
It's not that well known here in the States. So again, I highly suggest people check it out. It is a fascinating case. And if you're looking for proof that like UFOs are, let's get past the idea that UFOs aren't real. They're real. They're unidentified. They're out there. We're seeing them.
Yeah. There's something happening. You saw something, and especially when British people talk about it, it seems more believable because of that accent.
It's so eloquent.
Right. You're just like, of course it's real because this British guy told me it's real. Like I've been believing that. I've been believing them ever since I've been watching documentaries on PBS when I was 8 years old.
Exactly. They never tell a lie.
They can't. That's the wonderful thing about it. So droll.
With the exception of maybe the Revolutionary War. I mean, everything about that is perfect.
That was a blip. That was a blip.
Ellison, you can't prove that happened. Come on.
I see. You're an American Revolutionary denier.
Yeah.
Right. He's a truther when it comes to revolution.
Yeah, let's not get into politics.
So what we should get into is, what are the cases that you brought when you were doing the research for your book and trying to bring something new in your own voice to the field of UFO journalism? What were some of the cases that you wanted to explore that maybe you felt like hadn't been explored enough and you thought you could bring your unique perspective to it?
Yeah, so a lot of the people in the book, guys, this is their first time coming forward. So this isn't, these aren't cases that people have heard a million times before. And that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to show everyday people are having these experiences. These aren't people up on stage at all these UFO conferences preaching, to the choir, as it were. These are law enforcement, professors, doctors. I've got a priest in the book. One of my favorites was a UFO sighting that happened to a retired radioman from the Coast Guard named Scott. And this happened back in 1974 in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. I'd love to tell this story.
Oh, yeah.
We love to hear stories.
We live for stories.
Cool. Awesome. Let's do it. Get by the campfire.
Especially about the Cuyahoga. Like, it's always such a funny, when you're driving out to the East Coast, you always got to pass that, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. And so it's always like, I don't even know how to pronounce that. So thank you.
Now we know. And now we know it's apparently a UFO hotspot.
Yes.
So yeah, 1974. Scott is at a drive-in theater with his friend. You know, they're making a Friday night of it, seeing a double feature, maybe pick up a girl or two. Young dudes just out for the weekend, and
The 70s, baby.
it's the 70s. Yeah. God, I can't even imagine what else they were doing. No. Scott has made it clear that he was not on any sort of substance this night, because that is one of my first questions to all of these
Absolutely.
people. It has
Especially because it's like 1974 and you think it's going to be like Dazed and Confused.
Right. Well, they definitely were dazed and confused, but I'll get to that.
All right.
Let's see. So yeah, they're getting ready for the movie to start, and they notice over the movie screen in the distance, this big chevron-shaped object coming towards them, like a boomerang. Like, what is that? Is it a blimp? Is it a promotional thing from the movie? But as it gets closer, it's clear that this is not any type of blimp. This is a metallic structured craft. And it was making absolutely no noise, you know, kind of like what I experienced back in 95. You know, Scott told me that it was so massive from tip to tip that it covered the entire parking lot of the drive-in theater. So that thing, it had to be huge. So at this point, everyone is getting out of their cars. They're just staring up at this thing. Some people start freaking out. They try to start their cars to leave, and none of their cars would start. And we've heard this a lot of times with UFO sightings too. It's very Close Encounters-esque, where everything just shuts down. So at this point, it's directly above them, and Scott remembers feeling like time sort of slowed down. Everything around him was hazy and just very weird. And he remembers as the thing started to drift away, everyone's cars started to start up again. Time seemed to go back to normal. But the weirdest thing about this, guys, is after this huge thing drifted off and disappeared, Scott goes to use the bathroom at the drive-in theater. Like, that is his immediate reaction. Like, nothing had just happened. And nobody's talking about it. People are in line to get popcorn. They're in line to go to the restroom. And nobody's talking about this huge boomerang UFO that just drifted right over their heads. And this, Scott tells me, this is because he didn't remember it happening. He thought like there was just sort of a glitch in the Matrix, as it were. Right. And nobody spoke about it. He gets back in the car. They watch the entire movie, him and his friend, and then they go home. And it isn't until many years later that he sees a UFO book in a bookstore, and it triggered the memory. Everything just flooded in, and he remembered it happening. So he starts freaking out at this point, you know, like he has this like blocked memory just start coming forward about this event. So he starts trying to find anyone who was there that night, you know, maybe another friend that was there, the friend that was in the car with him, and he can't find anyone. So this is really affecting him, you know, this whole event is kind of resting on this one man's shoulders. So I can't even imagine the struggle with having such an experience and having no one to sort of corroborate it. But I'll tell you, like, I believe him. This guy was so sincere. He spent so much time in the Coast Guard.
How'd you find him?
How did I find him? He actually reached out to me. When I started my research, I put out a lot of feelers on Facebook, and, you know, the glory of social networking these days is, you know, you're open to everyone around the world in an instant. And Scott came to me and he said, look, man, I don't talk about this much, but I'm retired now. I just retired from my post office job, and I'd love to tell you my story. And of course, I'm like, yeah, cool. I'd love to hear it. And as soon as he left me a voicemail with the entire incident, he left me about 6 voicemails because it kept cutting him off, unfortunately. And I was just astounded after he told me this story, and just the sincerity in his voice and the detail he had with it. I had no doubt that something definitely happened to him back in 74.
This is something that even in our last episode, we interviewed Reverend John Polk, and he had a story about a weird experience that they had at a UFO experiencers convention in Maine a couple years back, where these weird beings were, you know, they were seen by several people, and as soon as they left, everybody acted like nothing had happened. and it was a memory happening later of like, hey, you remember those weird guys that were here a couple of minutes? Like, was their skin blue? Do you guys remember that skin blue? And so that kind of thing. And when we were interviewing Josh Cutchin last month, he was talking too about how people, when they have some of the smell fairy experiences and stuff, that it's like you just go on with the rest of your day. Like it's like your perception has changed, like our reality is being manipulated for us.
Yeah.
And
let's unpack that a little bit. I mean, because I think there's a lot of components going on. I mean, I know in my own experience, like Mike and I were at a haunted venue in Spring, and supposedly haunted, I should say. And I was presenting there, and then we did the podcast there. And because it's a place that really promotes its ghost, any place that really promotes it as a selling point, I mean, that stretches credulity for me. So I didn't really think much of it. And so I'm stowing something under a table, setting up for the podcast. And I look up and I see a white orb, like with my eyes. And it just flew by my head, like just by my ear. And then, you know what? I just went on with what I was doing. I didn't even tell anyone.
Yeah.
And even later, we were, after the podcast, everything's all done. We were having a paranormal investigation upstairs. You think I would have mentioned that. But, this happened on a Saturday where, you get this orb flying by your head, but it happens just like that. It's so
right.
Fun. And so it flies by my head. I go on with what I'm doing like nothing happened. And then I don't even realize that it happened until Monday after work. I call Mike and I tell him what I just told you. But so I don't know what happened there. I don't think anything really was trying to do that to me, trying to suppress. Maybe it was just me and my inability, even though I'm all about this stuff. So imagine people who aren't interested or just don't have an appreciation for the unusual. What must it be like for them? Because I am waiting. I'm living for these kind of experiences, and I don't even process it.
Like Lovecraftian madness, Allison. Like it was. So you were not driven mad. Your mind had to stop. But I think that's funny. And when you said that, Ryan, you said glitch in the Matrix before too. And I don't know if you guys have been watching Westworld at all.
Not yet. I've heard amazing things though.
Well, I won't spoil
anything.
Only
the classic one.
And the classic one is great.
Only Yul Brynner.
You, my man, and Richard Benjamin. I love Richard Benjamin.
Yes.
What a stud back in the 70s. But on Westworld, obviously there's a ton of robots and androids. And
spoilers, Mike.
I'm not going to spoil it, but the whole idea, like when they pull them out of the park and then they have to reprogram them or do something, it's just like, they instantly forget that, or they have little words they use in the programming to turn them off or to, change their behavior. And that's how I feel some of these events are when you say like, these guys forgot about it. The cars didn't start. It's like they're coming in and they are reprogramming us like we would program the robots in Westworld. And we were talking to Josh Cutchin and the paranormal smells, and that there's so much sulfur and brimstone of smell associated with a lot of these events.
Yeah.
It leads me to think that sulfur is like, maybe that's our chemical agent that turns our minds into program mode or something like that.
That's crazy. Right. You mentioned that, man. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but what Joshua brings forward is so true. And I have found that pattern as well with a lot of these experiencers who say they've been abducted. If they think this happened in the physical realm, they were literally taken from their home, brought onto some sort of alien craft, a lot of them report smelling that sulfur scent or aroma, as it were. That's very interesting. I haven't read Joshua's book yet, but the fact that that's where he took it, that intrigues me, because that is also a pattern I found with a lot of these experiencers. And you're right, you do have to wonder, is this like a mechanism they use to Men in Black with the memory thing, eraser, or like you said, Allison, is this our innate human nature we can't really perceive what we're seeing in that moment. Let's either sort of mold it into something we are familiar with, or let's just shut down and forget that it even happened.
Or maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off now, but maybe it's a little bit of both. Like we have this natural tendency to just discount things that aren't part of our regular experience, or just put them aside, or forget, or just not process. And then so maybe there's an intelligence that's taking advantage of something innate in us.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, they know our code.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they have the human user manual, and so they know how to reset it.
Boy, I wish I had that user manual.
Right.
I know.
Right. Exercise would be so much easier if I had that user manual, because it's like, how do I get rid of that gut? Okay. So when we talk about some of your favorite cases in the book, and I think the Mysterious Universe interview, when you talked about Damien Knott, and I didn't know anything about Damien Knott before, and really hearing about him is. That was a person that I was like, oh my God, now I got to learn more about Damien Knott. And so can we talk a little bit about, give a little preview about his personal experiences?
Yeah. So Damien he's from Australia. So the book does cover like the whole globe. This isn't just a Western phenomenon we're dealing with. We sort of view it that way a lot. So Damien was a little kid when he had his first experience, and you're going to like this, Allison. This has to do with the orb phenomenon. We see this a lot in the quote-unquote ghost realm, but we see it in the UFO field as well. And it's very prevalent right now. It seems to be sort of an evolution of the phenomenon. We're not seeing flying saucers anymore. We're seeing these energies, these orbs, almost harking back to the day of the Foo Fighters, some of the first UFOs ever reported during World War II. I'm totally getting off track.
No, we love
Stop
it.
me when I do this.
Because, when I was reading the book, it was reminding me of the Will o' the Wisp, and maybe that maybe it's not extraterrestrials, maybe it's ultra-terrestrials, maybe it's the Fae. We don't really know what it is. So I'm going to let you go on, because the Damien Knott story, and also others in the book have seen similar phenomena. So tell us more.
Yes.
I want to hear about the dingoes.
The dingoes that ate the baby.
Right.
So yeah, Damien, he's skateboarding home one day and he sees this orb just above him, and he can't tell what it is. Is it like, is it a balloon? Is it this? Is it that? And it follows him as he's skateboarding home, and it starts freaking him out. He's like, this thing is literally following me. Like, it's not just something I passed by. It is going to follow me home. And it starts just, dancing throughout the sky. And even at that young age, he knows something's controlling this. Like, this isn't just some random electrical phenomenon. Like, this thing is following me. And he freaks out. He tells his mom. She doesn't believe him. But these orbs, they just keep coming. And he starts seeing them all the time, everywhere. So, what do you do at that point? Are you going crazy? Is this just like your young imagination? But they just kept inviting themselves into his life.
Did they have a message for him that, like, were the orbs trying to communicate with him, or he just saw them?
He just, as far as he told me, he just saw them. There was no sort of message like downloaded into his brain or anything like that. I personally, guys, I believe that these phenomena are much more subtle. When I hear stories of, the blue aliens gave me this message to give to the people, that's when I start sort of having to, step back and be like, okay. When people say that when they have all the answers, that's when I think there's, that's when you got to put the alert button on. But Damien, he never did that. He said, like, these things, they appeared when he was a kid, when he was a teenager, when he was 20, and they continue up until this day. And he's sort of become this cultural icon in Australia. And he will invite people to his home where these orbs are just all over the place. Like, a local news station came to interview him, and the entire news station, including the cameraman, not only caught these things on camera, but everyone saw them and experienced them. So whatever it is, it's invited itself into his life, and that was hard for him. The the anxiety and the anxious feeling of these things coming back time and time again and not knowing what they are or why they're there, it really took a toll on him. He became depressed. He became a shut-in at one point. But then he started seeking out other witnesses who had had either paranormal experiences or UFO sightings in his hometown. And this is what happens, guys. These people, they create their own sort of support groups where others will listen to them instead of calling them crazy or trying to debunk what it is. Oh, it's ball lightning, or you had a little too much
swamp gas, right? That's
swamp gas, yeah.
Or as Jesse the Body said in that one episode of the X-Files, what you saw was the planet Venus.
Yep. Well, absolutely.
And now people can see it for themselves because on Netflix they have Australian skies, and so I was like, what? I can see these orbs, and so I was really excited to see them because online people are like, oh, they're just bugs, it's just this, it's just that, and being in the paranormal field for a while, you do see that, you do see like the whole purported rod phenomena. And you're like, oh, that's bugs. But I gotta say, with what I saw in the documentary, there's quite a variety of phenomena that's been captured. Yeah. And, of course, when you're trying to capture everything, you might capture a bug here and there, but I'm telling you that most of those are not bugs. They're really lighted, multicolored phenomena. And, I feel for them because it's really hard when you see something in the sky to capture it. You think that you can. You're like, look at that moon. That moon is the biggest moon I've ever seen. It's the super
And you
moon.
take a picture with your phone. It looks like crap. You're like, it looks like somebody tossed a dime up there, a flashlight.
Right. It looks like the tiniest little dot.
Yeah.
So I really, it's amazing that he's been able to capture, what he has, and that they were able to put that out in a documentary.
It's the government that told Apple to make the iPhones. Like, the government did that so we couldn't take UFO photos. Like, so this is all obviously a conspiracy. And I think about that. Like, why would they attach themselves to Damien without permission or anything? Are they studying him? Is it like a extraterrestrial reality show? Like, what are they? You think about. Has he had anything? A lot of people that have experiences are like, well, the Space Brothers talk to me and they say they're bringing peace and Jesus is coming back, but he's stepping off a UFO this time. What does Damien say? Do they have a message for the world, or is he just like, dude, there's orbs in the sky, I don't know what it is, have a beer?
I'm going to go with the latter, my man, for sure.
Damien... Foster's.
Yeah. Right. Oh, God, I could go for one of those right about now.
Mm-hmm.
10:30 a.m. Why not?
Hey, it's Christmas.
He is one of the most modest people I've ever met. And I think he even says in that documentary, Allison, at one point, like, I'm not special. These people who say that I was chosen to see these things and they wanted me to tell something. Again, even Damien, as a deeply embedded UFO experiencer, says, no, I'm not special. Like, this was happenstance. While they may have invited themselves into my life, it's because I have invited them. I have let them in. And, this has changed the entire course of his life. He will get the best equipment he can to try to record these things. And it's kind of a game. It's a game between he and the phenomenon to see how they can interact with one another. So yeah, he has no sort of message to impart to humanity. But whatever these intelligence or these phenomena are, I think we're sort of working on their timetable, but they're also working on ours. This is a disclosure to Damien. I don't think we're ever going to get some sort of grand disclosure from the government about aliens or what UFOs are or aren't. It is happening person by person. And that's kind of what I try to convey in the book is these events are so isolated and so deeply personal in how they affect the person that it isn't some huge pattern that we're finding across the spectrum of people having these experiences. The one thing they all have in common is it changed their lives in one way or another. And that's what I found most important about focusing on the individuals rather than Are they from the Pleiadian star system? Are they from Zeta Reticuli? Let's work from the inside out. Let's work with how it affected the person, what they think it is. No one listens to these people on what they think the thing that they experienced is. It's always the writer or the UFO expert theorizing what these people saw. No, I don't care what their opinion is. And a lot of people won't care what my opinion is. Let's hear from the people having the experiences,
I love it. That's so revolutionary. It's going to come from the people.
It is. It's the backbone of the study,
Right.
And it's also going through a different filter. Like we're so, with Hollywood and with blockbusters and movies, we think that, okay, these aliens have to have some kind of motivation, because we with script writing 101, like, okay, what's the motivation? Well, what's the motivation behind the aliens? Like they're aliens, man. They don't have human motivations. Like you take something like Battlefield Earth by our Scientology man, L. Ron Hubbard, and like Battlefield Earth, the aliens in Battlefield Earth are just so very human. Right. Like every motivation is something that's based on a human emotion and I'm not saying that aliens can't have that. I'm not even saying that Battlefield Earth is it's a horrible movie. I'm not saying it's a bad book, but what I am saying is that when we try to, it's like putting our emotion onto your cat's not sad in the same way we get sad. The dog's not angry in the way that we get angry. An alien is not going to be greedy or, in the same ways that we do because they have a completely unique experience. And so trying to put that motivation on there is pointless. So taking the study of, okay, well, how did it affect the guy that was just at the drive-in on a Friday night and saw something that stopped his car and that filled up the parking lot? Like, how does that affect the rest of his life? Because you think from that moment on, he knows that something is real out there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I couldn't put it better myself. It's putting that mirror up to ourselves and seeing how these otherworldly or possible non-human experiences are affecting us. And like you said, these things, they're not going to have the genetic makeup, the spiritual makeup, or anything that we have. We are Earth. We are humans. We may be evolved here. We don't know that for sure. But whatever these intelligences are, if you look at the abduction phenomenon and how intrusive that is, it is clear that they do not have the empathy we have, or they wouldn't be doing this to us, maybe...
Well, I don't know. We're no bastions of empathy if you look closely enough.
No, that is a very good argument, Allison. I cannot disagree with that.
But there's some, the thing is, like,
yeah.
Think about what we do to animals when if we tag a deer or doing a research or something like that. There's also people on the other side of the spectrum who will like form like animal refuges or try to save, like bunnies getting crap in their eyes from a cosmetics, the Mary Kay Commandos, Bloom County. But you think there'd be some aliens that'd be like, oh my God, save the humans. Like, what can we do to save the humans? So, I do think that if they were able to experience it, at least some aliens would show up and be like, okay, sorry about the anal probe thing.
Yeah.
I feel shame.
It's so outdated.
We got new technology now. You won't even feel a thing.
Yeah, it's pretty much like what we were talking about a couple weeks ago. We interviewed Jeff Holder about poltergeist, and then we got into the Fae and that connection, and how these beings, whatever they are, be they extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial or we don't know what, they inhabit a different moral plane, and we can barely understand each other.
Yeah.
So I love your approach because it takes it from, well, what do we know? Well, we know what the human experience is, or we can if we look deeply enough. So really thank you for writing this book. And what do you think the next steps are for UFO investigation?
So I see an evolution happening in the UFO field, as it were, guys. There's a lot of younger researchers cropping up, and it's very exciting. We see this field as just old white men in their tweed suits,
with distinguished beards.
With distinguished beards.
And
very
pipes.
Good callback, my man. And it's it's not that engaging for a younger generation to be like, these people are just old and arguing all the time. They're not going to listen to me. Which is not true. You look at someone like Stanton Friedman or Peter Robbins, and when I started my UFO research, I was just throwing stuff at the wall to see if it would stick. And they're much more open than people give them credit for, the old guard, as it were. And they are like, I never thought about that. And a lot of them come from a very nuts and bolts study of the phenomenon, trace evidence. I need to see a solid craft. That's it. That's all science is going to look at, But I do see an evolution happening with the younger generation, and they're really starting to explore different facets of it, that human approach, the consciousness even, how we perceive the phenomenon. Is it something, so big and we can't perceive it as it actually is that we put these connotations on it? It's a flying disc. We've been conditioned for so long that that's what UFOs are. They're flying saucers. So what we're seeing may not actually be a flying saucer, but that's what our mind is going to see it as. It's fascinating. So a lot of people in the UFO field now are looking at consciousness and what that might be able to tell us. Are we manifesting these things? Are we dreaming them up and they're happening? Jacques Vallée talks about this a lot. And he even brings up the whole idea of fae and, fairies, and that each generation or century has their own take on what aliens are. At one point it was fairies. At one point it was this. Now we're, the 80s and 90s. We have these little gray aliens with big heads and black eyes. What comes next?
Thank you, Whitley.
Thank you, Whitley. Yes. Thank you for that terrifying book cover that will always be singed into my mind.
Right. No, it got us all. Ryan, I think I love the idea that the evolution of that we're changing. It's almost like we're coming full circle. And in the way that, how people explored things in different centuries. They took faith more seriously in the way of, these faith experiences happen. People had religious, spiritual experiences, and that was something that was very real to them. And then when we got into the age of reason and enlightenment and hard science, it'd be like, that faith stuff doesn't fly anymore. So I'm going to have to see a piece of the craft here to believe you. And now we're coming around back when we understand that consciousness might be, experiencing things at a different level than is material. Yeah. And you're like, okay, now we're coming back to maybe the people in the 15th century were right. And they were wrong.
They're rounding the Mobius strip once again.
They were wrong about so many things. You're just like, but they also, tried to put leeches. They also put leeches on you.
Right.
And also, Ryan, I see you're wearing a Blink 182 t-shirt.
Oh, is that your parent? Okay.
And Blank's, they got some great songs, but Tom DeLonge, like, where does he on the crazy scale? where do you find him?
I was very against Tom DeLonge when his first book came out, that fiction book about UFOs. I thought it was a hindrance to the serious study of UFOs, disinformation, blah blah blah. That was me, the angry young ufologist being like, no, I've been busting my butt to do this. Come on.
and they sucked when they went mainstream, man.
They sold out. Yeah. But you know what? Especially with the Podesta email leaks, which involve Tom DeLonge, which is crazy. It's crazy to think that the lead singer of Blink-182 is connected to like one of the biggest scandals in political history.
Right. Like, how did he show up there? It's like I love it.
But the thing is, those emails gave away the names of the informants that Tom DeLonge's been speaking to about UFOs, which I find deeply fascinating. I've sort of come around, and I support Tom DeLonge and what he's doing. While I'm weary of some of the information he's being given by the military intelligence agencies, he's sprinkling these little things here and there that I think can connect some dots within UFO history. I don't think Tom DeLonge he's not bringing anything new to the table in terms of ufology, but he's bringing things forward that could really tell us a lot about what happened in the past, how the U.S. military is involved with UFOs, and what that might be. I look forward to what he's got. The dude's got some clout, and he's clearly flexing his muscles now with it.
He's committed. Whether he should be committed, but he is committed.
He is committed. And,
I feel there's like a whole show here.
There is.
A huge can of worms. We're gonna have you on again, definitely.
We'll have to, and when we bring Ryan on, I think it would be great even just to talk about Tom DeLonge in the way that bringing also Robbie Graham from Silver Screen Saucers, because he's the disinformation guy. He really goes into how the CIA was manipulating Hollywood into how we all think about UFOs now, and how we think about Area 51 and Groom Lake and all that kind of stuff.
Sounds like a UFO roundtable to me.
It does sound like
Absolutely.
a UFO roundtable to me. That would be really fun. But so Ryan, thank you again for joining us. And if people want to know more about your book, find more about your work, even go see when you got a play going on or something like that, where can they find more information about you?
Yeah, man. All my work can be found at somewhereintheskies.com. The book's available on Amazon, paperback, ebook. So yeah, get it as a last minute Christmas present for, we're recording this after Christmas has already occurred. For next year, how about?
It'll be out on Monday. And the thing is, like, if you forgot to get a Christmas present
the Monday after Christmas. Yeah.
If you forgot to get a Christmas present for somebody and you're like, oh, I don't know what to get them, now you know what to get them. Get them Ryan Sprague's book. And because proceeds are going to go to the Women Refugee Commission. And you're going to be supporting an exciting new voice in UFO journalism. So, and you can find all this information, the links and everything like that, quick and easy, othersidepodcast.com/124. And we're going to have links to all Ryan's stuff there. You can find it. So thanks again, Ryan. And thanks again, Allison.
Thank you.
So
Thank
much,
you, Ryan.
guys.
Thank you, Mike.
Wow, what a nice guy.
Yeah, I thought he was a really fun guest, and I liked the fact that he had to sneak into his closet in order to be able to record.
That's great.
Because that was the only place in the room or in his apartment that he could do that didn't have echo.
Yeah.
I think. And I know because I've done that in every kind of room or, every kind of thing.
Right, depending on where you are, and if it's time to record, it's time to record. So, the professionals, they know how to make it happen. And
Right.
we appreciate that he did that. So, also, I thought it was really neat hearing him talk about some of the people that we met at the Paradigm Symposium.
Mm-hmm. Right. It was exciting. I'm like, with Rendlesham, then he's got to know Peter Robbins. And then he's like, yeah, Peter Robbins is like my mentor. Like, awesome. Because
Very cool.
I really was excited to meet Peter Robbins, and I can't wait to have him on the podcast and talk to him so we can go in deep on Rendlesham and explore that.
For sure. For sure. Well, with the new year coming up.
Oh, 2017. I can't believe it.
Yeah. A whole fresh new year.
Yeah.
We're starting to think of some topics and ideas for upcoming episodes. And if you, that's right, listener, I'm talking to you.
Straight to your eardrums.
If you have any ideas of things that you'd like to hear us talk about or people you'd like to hear us interview or anything like that, please do let us know. And you can do that by contacting us on Twitter at OthersideTalk. Or you can email us, show@othersidepodcast.com.
You can send us a picture of a topic you want us to talk about at
There you
our
go.
Instagram.
Otherside Podcast on Instagram.
Or you can contact us directly. I'm at Sunspot Mike on Twitter, and
I'm at Sunspot Wendy on Twitter.
yeah, so we're super easy to find, and we're looking for your input on cool shows that we can do in the year 2017. We're coming up on 125 shows, and we always need ideas from people like you who pay attention and listen to us.
And there's so much out there that, it's good to know what people want to hear about.
And one of the things I liked about Ryan is that he's wearing a Blink-182 shirt in the conversation, because you guys can't see this at home, but on Skype, we're video conferencing, and he's wearing his Blink-182 shirt, and then, of course, now, if you guys don't know that, Tom DeLonge was one of the singers of Blink-182, singer and guitar player, and he had his band Angels and Airwaves, and Tom DeLonge has his own, theories about UFOs and contacts within the government, and he even showed up in the election this year because he had emailed John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, about trying to get disclosure for UFOs.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And we've talked about John Podesta before because he's a big X-Files freak, and he's always pushing for disclosure. And I always thought that was weird because John Podesta was chief of staff in the 1990s for Bill Clinton. So,
right.
if there was disclosure to be had, you can't get any closer to the president than the chief of staff.
Yeah, no kidding. But it's also just funny to think about those worlds colliding of, the political DC guy and then the rock band singer.
The dude from Blink-182, the guy on stage making poop jokes or whatever now is involved in the political campaign And I haven't seen Blink. When did you see Blink-182 live?
I saw them live way back, like around the year 2000.
Right, probably when Ryan bought that shirt.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only reason I saw them was because Weezer was opening for them, and I wanted to see Weezer,
sweet.
so...
And isn't it weird that Weezer's an older band and a better band, and they're opening for Blink? But did Tom DeLonge say anything about UFOs on stage? Was anybody like, UFO disclosure, we want to know?
No, not at all. It was very juvenile humor. It was very Beavis and Buttheady up there.
Okay, that sounds about right.
But nothing cool about UFOs.
It's funny because he was supposed to be involved in the Blink-182. They had a Blink-182 reunion this summer.
Ah.
And they played Summerfest in Milwaukee. And instead of Tom DeLonge playing and being part of the reunion, and it's a 3-person band, right? So when you have a reunion of 2 people,
right.
it's I don't know if it's a reunion or it's like a side. It's not like just missing the original bongo player.
Yeah, that's strange.
But they picked a guy from a Chicago band. Oh, and I can't think of the band right now. Punk band. Okay, anyway, but they got a 3rd guy in, and Tom DeLonge said that he couldn't join the reunion because he was too busy working on his important UFO disclosure work. And
wow.
Right. So
more important than rock and roll. That says something right there.
Right. So that's why I thought, it was a funny thing. And Ryan's wearing the Blink-182 shirt. And of course, he's talking about listening to the Green Day album. And for the song this week, thought it would be good to kind of mix that because, we were playing rock music in the 1990s and we were playing pop punk music in the 1990s. Mm-hmm. And if you guys want to hear not only all of the songs that we've done for the podcast over the past couple of years, and we just crossed the 80th song we wrote for the podcast, Wendy.
Wow. All right.
So, last week we crossed the 80th song we wrote for the podcast. But if you guys want to hear all the music that we've been putting together for a couple of decades now, you can see that at our Bandcamp site, sunspot.bandcamp.com. And there's 160 songs. So it's really, you have a gigantic amount of music that you can listen to and enjoy at that site. And for this week, since we grabbed that pop punk kind of idea and Green Day and Blink-182, we thought it would be cool to have our most kind of 90s punky song for that. And it also kind of fits in with the attitude of his human approach to UFOs and the idea that the people that experience these things really have to have a lot of not necessarily self-esteem, but they have to really stand up for themselves against the world. Against the world that's not going to believe them and that's going to think they're totally bonkers. And that's what the song this week kind of talks about. And it's called Intellectual Terrorists.
Intellectual terrorists are poison in my head. They want to break down my resistance, have my conscience left for dead. They like to make you think that they're the righteous ones. They'll beat you down and call you names for sticking to your guns. You won't replace my sensibility with your over-anxious, overloaded, over-sensitivity. And if you look, you will find a rather sorry state of mind of all the people who won't stand up for their views. And if you look, you might see you don't have to agree with me, but I won't close my mind for you. It's easy to be blind, it's easy to be led. You like to cough up all the ideas that you've been force-fed. No one likes the freak, no one likes the odd man out. I'd rather live my life alone than live a life of doubts. I won't let you force yourself on me. I refuse to be a victim to your society. And if you look, you will find a rather sorry state of mind of all the people who won't stand up for their views. And if you look, you might see you don't have to agree with me, but I won't close my mind for you. You can break me down, I won't close my mind for you. You can break me down, I won't close my mind for you. Intellectual terrorists, I'm morality anarchist, and my mind for you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
Well, a special Happy New Year wish going out to our Patreon community.
Patreon community.
Yes.
We love you guys. You're the best.
Yes, we want to thank you for making 2016 really wonderful and showing your support that way. And a special thanks to
Ned.
Ned.
Thanks, Ned. He's at the level where he gets a shout out every single episode. You could be at that level too. But we do love all our Patreons. And thank you very much for making this an awesome 2016. And we'll see you next year.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about the anal probe thing.